Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of How to Do Everything. I am your host, Tommy Dasilo, and today on the show, Sonny Day, yes, that's his real name, is going to teach me how to get bullied for using dental floss. This show is on Patreon. If you would like to support How to Do Everything, you can get onto patreon.com/how to do everything. Get yourself a bonus little mini episode every week. This Friday, there is going to be the second part of the longer episode that I recorded with Dilruk Jai Singer and Josh Earl will be dropping on there. So check that out. There's quite a few in there at the moment. There's like 5 or something episodes. Sometimes it's guests that have stuck around after the episode. Other times it's little extra chats that I'm recording specifically for the Patreon. But good content on there, extra stuff if you enjoy the show. And more importantly, it helps support the show. It helps keep the lights on in here. It helps me to keep the plants that are in my home office alive. As you can see behind me, maybe, if you're watching the video of this, there is one in this room that has tragically shuffled off this mortal coil, which I just discovered when I came in here to record this. So I don't quite know how your financial input helps that to not happen, but I am confident that that is the key to making that not happen. So if you care about plant life, indoor plant life, get onto patreon.com/how to do everything and support the show. Today, I am joined by Sonny Day. If you don't know Sonny, he's half of We Buy Your Kids with his partner Biddy. They're a graphic design company, studio, couple, power couple, dare I say. They've done tour posters for the Laneway Festival, for Jack White, for the band Youth Group. They do all their artwork. They've done a ton of like movie and video game posters for exhibitions at the legendary Mondo in Austin, Texas. If you know anything about Mondo, you know how cool that is to have worked with them. Sonny himself has had exhibitions around the world, including Tokyo, Los Angeles, Sydney. He's a great painter. He's an incredible artist. If you've been to Paramount House in Sydney, you will have seen his artwork all over the walls, in the corridor and in the cafe downstairs. They've done all sorts of work, both together and Sonny solo by himself. He's an incredible artist. I feel very fortunate to call him a friend. I'm such a massive fan of his work, and I'm a massive fan of just the vibe of the guy. You'll hear in this chat, there's just something about his energy and his outlook that I find so infectious. I always have the best time when I sit down and chat with Sonny, and so I was rapt to have him on the show. And so let's get into it. How to Do Everything with Sonny Day. You're a soft-spoken guy anyway.
I am.
We can do a lot in post.
Yeah, well, just make me look about 3 kilos lighter. I've lost tons of weight, man. Since I got out of hospital, I went in at 113, and when I weighed myself yesterday, I was 105.
Great.
Yeah.
That's like anytime I've been overseas and gotten like food poisoning, there's it's obviously you're just praying for death.
Yeah.
But you do have the moment where you're like on the other side of this.
Yeah.
It's just a complete cleanse.
Oh, it's great. You know, you have a big night on the fight milk, and it's like,
I have been thinking that at the moment, like I'm being so unhealthy and like feel like I've put on a little bit of weight and just going like, man, a couple of weeks in a coma or something would really sort me out.
I remember seeing this thing on the news like a million years ago about people going into rehab and detox and stuff like that, and they were putting people under like for a week to kind of go through that first stage of withdrawals. I was like, maybe just have a nice big nap, you know, have a nap for a week. Wake up. Yeah, great. Awesome.
I need the tube up the nose that's just like pure nutrients. None of the other shit that I'm putting into my body.
They call it Ensure, you know. It's like that hospital gunk that kind of keeps you fucking ticking over, keeps the stomach working, right?
Yeah. So you're off the booze now, and I mean, do you feel like as a result of that, in addition to that, you're going to do a whole bunch? You know, you're going to have like complete lifestyle turnaround, or because for me, anytime if I take drinking out for a little bit. With everything else, I'm like, all bets are off. If I'm doing this one thing that's healthier, then I don't need to worry about anything else.
Oh, dude. Well, yeah, I'm hoping so. I talked to a bunch of people at this China Heights Christmas party last night, and they were like, it's a reset. Treat it as a hard reset. I'm like, yep, that's the way I'm going. And I woke up this morning, and having been around all these super talented, amazing artists last night, I was like, I woke up just pumped for what I'm going to do over the break.
Yeah, great.
Right? And then using that kind of just trying to keep that vibe up. You know, maybe it's you lose something, but you gain something else.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, the more I think about it, it's like, you know, I don't need to drink.
Yeah.
And in the scheme of things, I didn't really drink. It was like it's a social thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's so easy to fall into that trap. And then it's so easy to let that kind of pull you away from what you should be doing, you know? And I think that's the thing that I'm trying to kind of reconcile right now is it's like if I lose something else, I replace it with this new, keep this energy going.
Well, drinking's such an easy one too, because it's like what you get back is just hours and hours and hours in the week where you're not sitting around feeling like a bag of shit. And especially like the turning point for me was like even just having like 3 on the couch in the evening is enough to make me that like 5% foggier for the start of the day where not a lot is getting done.
That's
so even
right.
just like noticing you get through the task list a bit quicker is like
Well, even just trying to work when you've had a couple of drinks is just ridiculous. And it's like, yeah, I don't know why I was trying to do that. And so I'm just looking at everything and changing it around too. And like we've had such a crazy couple of years that, yeah, it's about looking at things outside of work as well now. So it's like getting in and working during the day, and then Biddy and I can have time together. We can hang out with the dog. We can, we can come to the big smoke and, do adult things like see shows or catch up with friends and stuff like that, And then, work still gets done. And, obviously we're going to talk about work today. And it's sort of just getting that mindset changed so that it's not just about work.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you work for yourself. And you know that as well as anyone does, that when you're working for yourself, it can be all consuming. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it gets boring,
Yeah, you need that like reset of your brain to approach things fresher. And yeah, like I find it hard to have the switch off experience be like a full switch off that is actually good for me in terms of recharging and not thinking about it as something that feeds back into the work.
Yeah.
Like, if I go on this holiday, I might get something to write stand up about,
Sure.
Viewing your like leisure time as like pure, like a whole other box.
Yeah, not going into it expecting something to come out of it,
Yeah.
Because that's always a pleasant surprise, and that's, It's been talking about travel too. It's like, for me, it's like a great recharge, and it's always inspiring. And I come back with ideas, or I've made stuff while I'm traveling. And, I'm really lucky to be able to travel for work mainly. That's the main crux of all my travel these days is for work.
Yeah.
So you're already on the clock.
I mean, travel is my I did a couple of stints this year of long stints of not drinking. And in all those cases, I had a trip coming up where I would initially be like, oh, well, I'd have to drink on the trip. And then I would think about it a bit more and be like, you know what? I've done every holiday where I'm, having a drink at lunch and being a little hungover and a little foggy during the trip, but that kind of adds to it. That's part of the magic. What I've never done is a holiday where I'm like not drinking the entire time and getting up early and going for a run and having, that'd be so interesting. It'd be like a completely different way of travel. And then it's like I get to the airport and I'm like, God, I really want that beer before I get on the plane. That's one of life's great pleasures. I can't deny myself that.
Yeah, the stewardess comes around, it's just like, just make it a double. Just keep coming.
Oh, drinking on the plane.
Yeah, just remember
nothing else
Tommy
like
Daslow,
it.
15C,
I was on a flight once to America when I was like probably 25 or something with my friend Nick Cody, and he got up, like we'd had a couple of beers, and he got up at one point and he was gone for like quite a while, and he came back and he had his arms just full of cans of beer, and he sits down, he's like, I found where they keep the beers. Just had them like stashed in that little pocket. And it's like,
how'd you find out? The Sky Marshal told me.
It's like, man, they'll just bring them for you like whenever you want, and they'll be cold and fresh.
What if they run out?
What if that is my fear, that I'm like, I'll have a couple on the flight, and then you really do feel like by the time you're getting to like 3 or 4, and it is always like the same person, I always just kind of think like the humiliation of them going, not even because you're acting drunk or anything, but the humiliation of them going, hey, this is like 5 now, and we're like an hour and a half into this like 9-hour flight. we're sort of going to need you to ease off a little bit. I just get that real panic of like, dare I push the button? Dare I roll the dice?
You should just roll the dice, man.
Yeah.
You should be the dice man.
Yeah.
Tommy the dice man. Yeah, make it 6.
Tommy Dice Clay.
Tommy. Oh, my goodness. And do you follow Andrew Dice Clay on Instagram?
I don't think I do. No, should I?
No, you shouldn't. But it's hilarious. It's just him reliving the glory days. You know,
Yeah.
the 90s, I mean, the 90s are back, but I don't know whether he should be coming.
He doesn't fit in. Yeah. So yeah, you travel's maybe a good place to start. You do
Sure.
travel a lot for work because I got to know you when you guys lived in Sydney, and just when we were out the front, you were having, because you have kind of lived, I would say, the like work for yourself artist dream of getting like fed up with the big smoke, move out somewhere like regional, bit more space. The reality of it being like, well, yeah, you work from home, you work for yourself. You can kind of live wherever.
Yeah.
Why are you in a little box on top of everyone else? But like I reckon I'm on the cusp of that, but I have a lot of fear about committing to just being like,
dude, no, it's a hard button to press. Like I was, fighting against it for so long because Biddy was so keen to move out. And it was, in the long run, it was one of the best decisions that we ever made,
Right.
And, I was stressed about like, oh, will we still get work being out the country? Will anyone want to hire us? And if anything, we were as busy, if not busier. And we didn't tell anyone that we'd moved for like 6 months.
Right.
And this is like back in the day when we were still, pretty busy with Laneway. We still had heaps of music work going on. And then when we finally told people, they're like, oh, great. Can you still answer emails? I'm like, yes, sir.
there's no time difference in Orange, is there? No.
How's the air up there? You get altitude sickness? Yeah. No, but it was fine. And I think a lot of people knew and understood and could maybe a few years later could really see the benefit of moving away and being out of the big smoke too. Because it's kind of like Sydney's a hard town to live in. It's an awesome place. I miss it to death. But you got to work so hard, and then you play really hard. And then, you never really get ahead. So,
I remember like wanting to, there was a period where I thought it'd be great to move here. And I had just moved out of a share house for the first time in Melbourne. And I remember kind of like looking into it like, oh, Sydney, what would it cost me in rent? And it would cost me in rent to live in a share house with like 4 people, what I was paying in Melbourne at the time to live alone. And I was like, well, that seals it. I can't go back from living solo to pay that much because then I'll never get back there again. If that's what it costs to live with other people, living solo is just...
But I mean, there's nothing like sharing a toothbrush between 4 people.
That's true.
Like, it's Tommy's turn to buy the toothbrush.
Well, when you lived in Sydney, I came to your house once because you and I were talking on the phone the other day and you were describing yourself as being like quite happy to have like confrontational conversations with people.
Oh, yeah.
You were sort of describing yourself as like you don't kind of shy away from...
Well, no, that's quite a recent development.
Right.
It's one of those things that getting older, you've got to be able to speak your mind.
Sure.
Right? And that's just one thing I've learned. And I like to think that everyone knows where I stand on things. And not to be super confrontational. It's more just if I have an opinion on something that relates to what we're sort of working on or even talking about, that I'll just say what it cuts the bullshit out,
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, especially with work. It's like you've got to be able to kind of speak your mind.
Yeah.
And then if something's not working, you've got to be able to say, well, this is why I think this isn't working. And then, it's compromise as well. It's when you're working for clients, there is compromise. But yeah, I think nice, healthy, robust discussion is
That's a thing I'm really kind of trying to work on and have battled with is the thinking about the like stress of the like short-term confrontational thing kind of turns me off it. But then the reality is like what that balloons into long term
totally
is so much worse than that like
it
5
is.
minutes and it's over conversation.
Exactly. You might dread having those conversations, but you feel £1 million lighter once you get that off your chest.
Yeah. And I dread most things that come up in the day.
Oh,
so what's one more on the pile?
Mate, you ordering that coffee for me, I was like, oh, what's Tom going to think about me? Should I have bought that? It's just, I'm going to stress about that. I'm going to think about that in 3 years' time when I'm on the toilet. Fuck, I should have bought that coffee.
It's always on the toilet. It's on the toilet or it's at 2 a.m. That's when they get you.
Just that embarrassing thing from high school. You know, I don't want to talk about that. Don't bring.
Okay, I won't bring
Just
that
don't
up.
Bring it up.
I do have a team of researchers that I'm like Nardwar. I find out stuff about you that no one else knows.
How many dudes must that guy have? You know, like just digging up all the stuff on Tyler or the random bassist from Deer Hunter from 4 years ago.
Yeah, that would be a great. It would be funny to start a LinkedIn page and you've just got all these like bizarre made up jobs like, head researcher for Nardwar.
Yeah, head pimple popper for Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah. But so when you described yourself as like, you don't shy away from these confrontational conversations, I was thinking about it when we got off the phone because I've always thought of you as like a very like zen, kind of placid, very calm person. But then I remembered one thing that sticks out when I was first getting to know you guys and I was up in Sydney and I can't remember how it all panned out. We ended up back at your house and I had been catching up with someone who I knew like very vaguely through a friend of a friend. And this person came along and you guys had this like great little rooftop setup.
Yeah.
And we were out there having beers and you had like was it like kind of an outdoor bathroom up there? Or the bathroom was like at the back of the house?
Yeah, you sort of walked out the back and the bathroom was immediately next to the back door.
Yeah.
And then we had like this patio that sort of looked over Newtown and then you could see right up into the city. It was dope.
Do you know what I'm about? Do you remember this moment?
The fog is clearing.
This person went into your bathroom and we heard her from in there going like, who's got the dental floss? I remember you turning to me and being like, the fuck is this person's problem? What's wrong with having dental floss?
Mate, flossing's more important than brushing. Come on.
And then, I remember we would bring it up nearly every time we talked after that for a little while because it was just like such an absurd thing to like loudly go off about.
It's someone else's bathroom. God, what's all this birth control doing in Tom's bathroom?
It was such a like awkward, stuck in the middle moment where I was like, if it's like a really good friend of yours, you can kind of leap in and vouch for them and be like, hey man, they just get it, they mean what. But then in that moment when you were getting annoyed by it, in my head I was like, yeah, I barely know this person. Like I'm not going to leap in and defend. Like I don't, you know what I mean? I can't speak to what the caliber of her character truly is.
So, but we didn't end up getting into a fist fight or anything like that.
No.
Okay, thank
No,
God.
but you were just clearly very put off by it. Quite fairly, I will say.
Look, I vaguely remember you bringing some random over to our house at some point, but I do not remember the dental floss thing. Thanks for reminding me about
I'm trying to remember because I met her, not to just dox this person or whatever. I met her at a music festival that I was doing comedy at and she was doing some like press stuff at. And then she was like good friends with a friend of mine. And this might have been after the dental floss thing, but I went to that friend of mine's birthday party. He had this big party and he had like this big sort of sheet, this massive sheet of like butcher's paper out on a table with like all these like texters and pens. And it was like everyone draw something, write a message, write a pot, just do whatever. I want to then just have this like big thing that I can like hang on my wall that's like a memory of this party. Kind of a cool idea. And I was there with my girlfriend at the time and we ran into this girl.
Yeah.
And, we're kind of chatting. And as we're chatting, she's there just kind of doodling on the butcher's paper thing for our friend.
17 numbers. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Well, then me and my girlfriend walk off. I'm like, my girlfriend's like, man, I do not like her at all. And we'd had the most like baseline surface conversation. And I'm like, what was the issue? Like what could she possibly have done in that interaction? And she's like, well, she asked me about what I do for work. And as I was telling her, I looked down and on the butcher's paper, she was just scribbling in big letters the word cunt. And I was like,
she mouthed to me, I'm going to kill you.
And in my head, I'm like, that's probably a coincidence. She's probably just doing that anyway. And then again, I'm like, why am I defending this person? I don't have a horse in the race here at all. And I'm flashing back to like the dental floss before this. I'm like, all right, it's time to face fact here. Yeah. This person has wronged two people that I really care about. I'm out.
It's been nice. It's been real.
Nice.
It's been real. Just delete me from your phone. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're getting more into the like speak your mind, let people know where you stand thing as you get older. Do you think that if that happened now, you would just straight away in the moment be like, How dare, hey, say what you will about me, say what you will about my wife, but don't you ever talk shit about my dental floss.
That's it. Or just don't ever talk about Drake like that again.
Yeah.
You know, just take those words out of your fucking mouth.
Yeah. You see these chompers? You see these beautiful chompers? This doesn't just happen.
No. No,
What kind of dank-ass life is this woman living that she's never been in a bathroom where she's seen someone with dental floss before?
Of all the innate, I mean, if it was like, why is this iPad set up here with the camera on? Sure,
Yep.
I'd get that. You
Yep.
know, but dental floss, where else does the dental floss live? Actually, the dental floss lives on my drawing desk back home. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sometimes it's just good to floss.
Sometimes you just feel a little chunk in there.
Get a little chunk.
Do you have like because I definitely have my version of a dental floss where I'm like in someone else's house and it's a thing that I'll notice and I have to comment on. Do you have a version of that of your own?
No.
Mine is.
I'd probably have a lot less friends if I went around random people's bathrooms and.
Well, sorry, not necessarily that you comment on it, but like something that you notice that most other people don't care about. Mine is, if this helps jog you in any
Sure.
way, mine is TV and couch placement is something that, like when
Yep.
you go into a living room and
Yeah,
someone has
right.
the TV and then the couch is like
On a weird
perpendicular to the TV, it drives me insane. I'm like, how are you watching? You're sitting there with your neck craned the entire time.
Yeah, that's a good one. No, Tommy, I'm not a psycho like you. That's just.
I don't bring this up to people. Me and some friends were in an Airbnb recently, and the Airbnb had like the TV, and then it had like on either side 2 little plants that were in front of the screen, and I was like, God, this drives me insane. Having shit just like in front of the TV, it's so annoying.
I see. I do this to myself because when I'm sitting down in front of my telly, I've got this giant Captain Phasma figurine who just sits in the corner of the TV, and I'm like, fuck, that's annoying.
Someone should do something about this.
Jesus Christ. I'm like, it's all the way over there, and I'm here. The controller's here. I've got my headphones on. I'll fix it tomorrow. And then sometimes it falls over, and I'm like, oh, who did that? And I'm like, hopefully it's the friendly ghost in the house who hears, who can read my mind and say, that's annoying you. You're too late. Hey, Sonny, don't get up from the couch. I got this.
If anyone, you and anyone listening, if you ever have a period in your life where you feel like you're being haunted. You're like, this is going to sound insane, but I got up one morning and I think there might be a ghost here because my couch was just kind of like swiveled around 45 degrees so it was facing the TV. You'll know that that is my unfinished business here on Earth.
Too is if you're at those people's houses and you go and move the couch for them. Oh, that's better. Oh, fuck, I can finally breathe.
Yeah.
Just stressing me the fuck out.
It's a long story, but I was like, I had like the house I was living in fell apart while I was overseas. So when I came back, I had to stay with some friends for a bit while I found my own place. And the place they were living in had this quite small TV that was like in the corner on a little shelf, like up against the roof. I would sit there and watch it and I was like, why have they decked this place out like it's a hospital waiting room? This is bizarre. Like, again, not everyone cares. Not everyone has to have the biggest TV. Not everyone cares about this shit in the same way that I do. But I'm like, that is so much work to have set this up in a way that is just. And again, I'd sit there and watch something and go like, I need to go to the chiropractor now. I've done myself serious damage.
It's like sitting in the front row at the cinema, right? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Again, it's a curse in your brain where it's like you notice the things that most other people just walk by and don't care about.
I mean, I always notice when people don't have a television, like, oh, good for you, good for you.
I was at someone's house the other day up here and this was one I'd never seen before. TV kind of packed away like alongside the couch. So clearly the TV's just on like a need-to-know base. It's like, hey, we're not just going to have it here permanently, taking up space. If we watch it for maybe 1 hour out of the day. Why should the rest of the hours of the day be ruined by this little black box that's sitting here?
Yeah.
We'll just get it out and plug it in as we need.
That sounds like a lot of work, though.
It does sound like a lot of work.
Or maybe someone got grounded and they had their TV privileges taken away.
Could have been that, but there was no like. there was no like TV cabinet, or it really looked like they just, when they need it, they just set it up on the dining room table.
Or maybe they just folded it, put it on top of the box. And did a bit of Swedish ingenuity there. They didn't need IKEA. They've already got the boxes there. Just use it.
Yeah. So like, yeah, so you moved out to Orange. You get to travel a lot for work. A lot of the times that I hang out with you now are like, there's just this kind of like beautiful cosmic coincidence where I'll be in Sydney and you also happen to be in Sydney. Sometimes the stars just align, and it does make the catch-ups feel all that more special.
Totally.
When it's just like I'll post something about doing a gig and I'll get a message from you like, brother, you in Sydney?
Yeah, I'm behind you. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I dig that too. And it's like, I think that's how the world works these days. Like everyone's so busy and we're all sort of all over the place these days. So it makes those catch-ups more important and more valuable too. And like, yeah, we've been friends for a million years. We've done all this crazy stuff together. And it's just nice to be able to just sort of pick up exactly where we left off.
Yeah, we lined up once in LA, which was great.
We had Thanksgiving in LA.
That's right.
No, there was a couple of times. There was actually, I think it was 2 Thanksgivings back to back.
Really?
I think so. It was definitely the first one. We were at that dark room bar in
That's right.
in LA for Thanksgiving.
We had a beautiful catch up at Cantor's Deli once.
We did.
I can't remember if that was the same trip or not.
No, I think that was the second time we caught up.
But one of the times I was up here where we've linked up was I came up here just after the first big Melbourne lockdown. It had been my thing in my head of like, as soon as we can, I'm just gonna pop up to Sydney for a little trip. And so I came up here. It was the end of 2020. Sydney hadn't really had any massive lockdown apart from like the big one at the start when everyone in the world was in lockdown at the same time. And so I came up here, had this just like, because everything in Melbourne at the time was like you had to stay seated. You could only have X number of people in a venue.
You come up here and everyone's spitting in each other's mouths.
Genuinely, it was overwhelming, but it was just a great breath of like the real world again.
Yeah.
And so I got a message from you that you were in town, and we ended up linking up. Levins was DJing at Jimmy's Falafels. Do you mind me telling part of the story without specifics?
Sure.
Because we caught up and I said to you, what are you doing in town? And you were telling us a story that you were doing a mural that was going over a mural that was on a side of a house that this guy had just bought. And the mural that was on there was from a very bad man. And this family had moved in, and the way you told it, correct me if my memory's wrong, his daughters had gone like, Dad, we cannot have this shit on the side of our house. And so you had been called in to like do something over the top of it, and you wheeled this story out at the table to a bunch of people who I was there with, who were friends of mine who didn't know you, and you were the hero of the evening. It was just like, what a valiant job to be up in Sydney doing.
Well, that was a fun job too, and it was just going over something that probably shouldn't have been there, and that's a here I am going about how I speak my mind, but sometimes it's just some stuff you don't.
Yeah, it's fine. Hey, when a mic is on, it's a completely different story. You don't have to speak your mind.
Yeah, that artist is fantastic. Love their work. They've made some.
No, well, that's too far the other way. No, but I did just like it's like. I just love that it was such an interesting story of not just like, oh, I'm up here doing this. And it was like, it really made you the hero of the evening of like, yay.
Yay. Oh, look, and you never want to paint over someone else's art. But, unfortunately that person has done some stuff that, has just diminished their legacy, and they've done some really bad stuff. And, it was a nice job to do, and I was really happy with the result, and the client was happy, and we got the result in the end, and I got a story out of it. I think that's the thing with anything. It's like being able to kind of go and do fun stuff and then somehow pull a story out of it. So you're not just, I just went and painted a wall. It's like, I went and painted a wall, but I had to build the wall. Have you ever built a wall before, Tommy? Let me tell you this, I can build you a wall in 2 days.
Well, you were also up here in this like, that was like this mad heat wave in Sydney.
It was, dude.
And I think you'd done like half of it, and you kept like not being able to work because it was too hot.
It was so fucking hot.
So you were just here like kind of like those stories you hear about people doing the people that are on like they're trying to get like the longer term visa here, and you have to go do your like farm work. And like I have a friend that dated multiple backpackers in a row, and they had the experience, or they would like I think one of them had the experience where sometimes you go and work on those farms, and they're like the person is just like, yeah, do your 30 days, whatever, I'll cross it off. But then some of them are like, you get there and it might be wet season, so it might be raining. And if you don't do the day's work, they're not logging it because they're like, no, I'm getting my goddamn hours out of this British son of a bitch. And like, and they just end up trapped there because it's like, it's a storm for like a month and they've got like one more day to go to be able to get out and go back to Bondi.
Yeah.
Brutal. Just imagining you, it's like the 18th day in a row of being 40 degrees and you've just got like one more stroke to do and you're like, please.
Well, yeah, it was either that or heat stroke, one of the two. But yeah, I'm just not built for the heat anymore, you know? It's like, that's why I love living in the country. Like we get proper winters, it snows. And then, just even walking around today, I'm just like, fuck this. It's like, I don't want to get into the environment, dude. I told you I didn't want to talk about that. It just my people.
Again, man, you got to speak your mind. Who are you trying to protect?
The environment. The environment.
So one of your like you when I asked you, what's the earliest like area of expertise you remember having? You talked about drawing, painting, all these things that are now your job. And was that like a super young thing? Because I was thinking about this on the walk here, and it was the same for me. I was very much the drawing kid in all my classes for as long as I can remember, which is funny when you think about like a kid's drawing ability being able to stand out to their peers. Because every now and then I'll look back on like my parents have saved a bunch of stuff that I drew when I was like 9. And you're like, this is so shit.
But this one, keeper,
The idea of like a fellow child seeing that through their eyes and being like, oh my God,
whoa,
what complex rendering.
It's fantastic. It looks like you're totally riding that skateboard.
Yeah.
With the unicorn on your back.
Yeah. Were you a margin doodler?
No. I was thinking about this when you sort of threw this out, a few days ago. I was thinking about it, and I don't remember drawing before I sort of started reading comics.
Okay.
But once I started reading comics, that's when I started drawing all the time. There was a clear memory of just doing that. And I was like, fuck, that's what I want to do.
And were you like drawing the stuff from the comics? Were you doing copies of them or just more like, I want to do that?
drawing my own stuff, writing my own comics, all that kind of jazz, all superhero stuff. Like I was super... that real golden age, like Tom McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Eric Larson, those dudes.
Yep.
So I was drawing Liefeld feet, all these kinds of things, just weird chests and bullshit.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, because I was like, I'd never seen anything like that before.
I had it's so funny how you as a kid, if you get really into drawing and you start to have the thing of like, oh my God, I would love to do this when I'm older. This is kind of like what I want to do with my life. And you sort of don't really get given any choice, because if you get into that, what you then also end up doing is just not paying attention in your other classes and just drawing in the margins of the book. So it's kind of like not only are you actively compelled to do that thing when you get out of school, it is also contributing to you failing all of your other subjects. So you are given like no choice.
That's right. You're on the street holding a sign, we'll doodle for money. We'll draw Liefeld fit for money.
Yeah. Our art department was in like a separate building from the rest of the school. It was like a 15-minute walk away. And you would often...
That's like 3 cigarettes, man. That's fantastic.
It's kind of good in that. You literally did have to walk past a 7-Eleven to get there. So it was like a little can of Coke on the way. But you would then get into trouble with your next class because you were late, because you left at the bell. And like my geography teacher was always like, well, you just simply have to leave 15 minutes early. And it's like... guess what? I don't want to give up art to come and do fucking geography.
Yeah, I know what a rectangle is, man. It's got 5 sides, dude. Don't talk to me about angles.
I'm never going to go to China. Who cares where it is on the map?
Wait, I was talking geometry. You're talking
geography.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I did like the way your brain. I was thinking like that is pretty funny. Just thinking of a rectangle as a country.
Yeah, man, I've been to rectangle heaps of times.
Yeah, it's the same. They're all all the countries are a little shape. They're a little shape on the map.
Yeah, China's one of my favorite angles. Yeah, I didn't do this class at high school, but when I went to school in high school in Bundaberg, shout out to Kepnock. any Kepnock alumni listening to this. But they had like a commercial art class. So you could do art and then you could do what I assumed was more practical art. So leading into graphic design and all that kind of jazz. And yeah, so it was kind of for my high school, there was this sort of avenue where you could sort of take creativity and learn skills that would, apply to an industry,
right.
So, and I regret not taking that class, but at the same time too, I think things worked out okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everything's led you to this moment where you're on a podcast on a 40-degree day.
But that's the thing too, like just even thinking about where my head was at in high school too, thinking about, wanting to do this because it was all I wanted to do. I knew that it was the only thing that I could do, and I fell into other things as you do as you get older, because you've got to make money at some point before this became what I do. But thinking, what I'm into at the time when you're in these art classes and it not being what you're being taught as well, whether it's comics or illustration or, skateboarding and skateboard art, like just these things that sort of weren't at the time, didn't conform to what I guess schools thought art should be.
Totally. I had a moment in my...
Just full disclosure, I passed math and English in high school. Those are the only two things I passed. I failed everything else.
In my year 11 or 12 art class, I had a thing happen that I've always looked on as like a real kind of blip against the teacher, against the school. And then as I've gotten older, I've come to see it as like that was actually like a great lesson that was there for me to learn that I kind of took the wrong lesson from. But we were working on our end of year, final piece, final assessment. And mine was kind of getting along, like, near the end
budget.
There. Pardon?
You went over budget.
Went over budget. Yeah. Sorry, Mum, I'm going to need another advance on the pocket money.
Yeah, it's $20,000.
Just tell Spotlight I'll pick up the tab in a month.
That's fine, yeah. I need enough material to cover the school, But
I was getting near the end of that and my teacher got a look at it and she was kind of coming around and giving us all a bit of an assessment on how our pieces were going. And she was like, looked at mine and said, "This is really bad. This is like one of the worst things I've ever seen." And everyone was like laughing at me. And I really let it get to me. I got so disheartened by it.
But who says that? Like what kind of a teacher says that? That's just...
Yeah, but you know what?
It was bad.
What I've come to realize is that like that's just like you got to take your knocks. Like, you know what I mean? You got to take your bad feedback. You got to take your... Especially in like working for yourself and in anything like creative or show business based, like you've got to be prepared for like negative feedback or just even simply like hearing no on something that you really care about and getting back up and keeping going. And for a long time in my life, it was like I'd let that rattle me and knock me down and be like, okay, I'm out. I failed.
Well, mate, no, and I totally hear you. It's just that's 75% of my job is people saying that they're not into what we've done.
Right.
It's just that's the world you live in. But just for a teacher to kind of come out and say that, I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
No, 100%.
I'd come out swinging.
I don't think they were doing that to like, this is a valuable lesson about the realities of
Tommy's
like,
going to take
work
this
as a
lesson
job.
And he's going to become Australia's second greatest podcaster.
The fork in the road moment where I could have gone, I'll show you, and really like rise to the challenge and then just be this
but I want to see the training montage for that. You know what I mean? Just that's what I want to do.
And look, to be fair, as time has gone on, I've been able to accept that like she was right. It did suck ass what I was doing.
Sure. But maybe you say, hey, Tommy, I don't think this is really working.
But also in my defense, I was 16.
It would work really well in the bin, So why don't we just go and put this in the bin?
Yeah.
And then how about this? Here's a crayon.
That actually, maybe that would have been a good move if I had have gone, okay, inspired by the last round of feedback that I got, the piece is now the original piece in the bin, and the bin is part of the piece.
Yep, and then you paint a love heart on the bin.
Yeah.
Oh, bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
I should bring it back.
You should bring it back.
I should bring this piece back.
No, let's anchor the next show around that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. Get the bin.
Get the bin, get the Yeah, the fear of failure, the fear of negative feedback, work that into it. I wonder if this is still on display at my old
you do
school.
an Oscar's
as like
grouch. You get out of the bin. You get out of the bin and start the show. A Star is Born.
Yeah, yeah, okay. From the ashes.
That's it. Australia's
This is where it
second
all
best
began.
podcaster. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the voiceover.
They couldn't keep me down. Yeah,
I like this Australia's second best podcaster tag. I'm gonna let's roll with that.
Yeah. I'll keep it going. I should have called the show that. That's a much better title.
There's still time.
I mean, this doesn't exist yet.
No, but
People looking at the screen being like,
with Tommy
what's
Dassler
that?
in brackets, Australia's second best podcaster with little asterisks. Not quite sure whether that's true.
So your other what was the other thing you were saying? As you were at school, from an early age you learnt how to put things off, right?
Oh no, but more so, like you were saying about being just focused on drawing, and I'd come home and I'd draw and I wouldn't do my homework.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd always be turning things in at the last minute, and I hated doing oral presentations. But I'd always, and this Biddy will tell you this now too, like when we get asked to talk, I never prep. Because I just go and I know what I'm talking about. So and it was the same thing. In high school, I'd just go and do a history presentation and blag it.
Yeah.
So it always sort of turned out to be a funny kind of thing, but I'd always fail. Right?
Yeah. But you didn't have that fear of like, oh, I'm really embarrassed because I'm like.
Oh no, I'd always stress out. I mean, you know what it's like. Like you never sort of just. I'm sure there's some sort of nerves every time that you get on stage, right? Like
there's an element with stand-up where like, yeah, you want to be prepared, but especially if you're doing new material, if you've had enough experiences where you've figured it out on stage on the night,
you just pee your
that's
pants
kind
before.
of a curse because you end up going like, well, I can just simply do that. That's why there's simply no point to being too prepared.
No, exactly. Right. I mean, maybe I'll do Will's show as well.
Yeah. Did you? Because I would get detentions pretty regularly at school, and that in terms of like putting things off and making excuses and whatever, most of the time detention was just stay back on Friday and just get a jump start on your homework. And I kind of loved it because it meant that it forced you to get the weekend's homework done that I otherwise would have left until last thing on Sunday night. Oh. And then every now and then you'd get the teacher taking detention who'd like get you to write like a bespoke essay. And I remember the first time being like, oh my God, the jig is up, and sitting there for an hour and writing this thing and then handing it in. And the teacher just kind of looking at it and going, great, and just putting it in the bin. He's like, what do I'm not marking this. This isn't for anything. This is just to
it's punishment.
Teach you a lesson to get you to do something that you don't want to do for an hour.
Yeah, that's why I asked you to write about how you'd polish my car. Yeah. So get out there and polish my car.
What's your favourite thing about me?
Yeah, exactly. What's your least favourite thing about me?
I remember getting a detention once. I thought about this recently because me and my friend were on the tram, and there was like, those, you might not, those like big circle tram mirrors that kind of hang in the corner that have that like weird kind of shape to them. Because they would just always be hanging in like a little bit of rubber. It was sort of like dangling off, and it was clearly going to fall and break. And also it was just there. And so we just like kind of grabbed it, and we were like, when you're a kid and it's like finding a street sign or whatever. You're like, oh, how cool is this?
Yeah.
Now we just have the tram mirror. So we took it back to my house, and then we were like arguing over who gets to have the tram mirror.
Well, it's in your house.
Yeah.
Possessions 5/10 the law,
100%.
Right?
Yeah. And then Monday morning we go to school and we get called into the principal's office because we were in school uniform.
Sick.
Someone's reported it. Obviously, they know like which kids are on which tram line. So we get detentions. Not only did we get a detention, we had to like go to the tram depot and like return the mirror and apologise to the tram company for defacing their property. It was so humiliating. But then we get there.
Oh, you guys are okay. Let's teach you how to drive a tram.
It literally, we got there, and the guy that we had to report to was like, I got to tell you, boys, I think it's pretty unfair that you've had to come in here just because some old bitch on your tram couldn't mind her own business. He's like, do you want to like have a little tour around the depot? He like tried to make it as fun as he could.
Yeah.
He was like, he's like, guess what, guys? This is just going straight in the bin. We don't need the mirror.
Have you ever seen a tram explode? Because we were blowing up all the old trams.
Yeah.
Press the button, Tommy.
Yeah, it was pretty, he did make it fun, but it was just like this thing of, when you have those moments growing up where for most of your life you're kind of like, well, I guess adults know best. And yeah, this something about this seems a bit off, but you know, if we've been told that it was the wrong thing to do, then yeah, I guess what do we know? And then having another adult be like, guys, you've been given a bit of a bum steer here. It was just like, oh, we're not insane. Someone else has seen the situation for how unfair it is.
Here you go, boys. Here's a knife. Yeah.
Yeah. Now go out there and actually earn a detention.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing that you've said you would like to get better at is building, like practical things.
Well, yeah, I think again, it's been on my mind of late. You know, like Biddy and I have a show together, our first show together in a million years. You know, Biddy hasn't been able to work that much due to her health the last few years. But yeah, I've been wanting to just take what I think it's like an extension of what we do, and it's like making more tactile things. I mean, you know, work on paper is one thing, but actually making physical objects.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, there's a potential there for what we draw to have a 3D outcome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it was also more so talking about I wanted to build this little set of shelves for my desk that I could put all my Star Wars figures on. That's
No, but as you get older, God, the number of things that you feel like you need for the house, or you're like, you know, especially if you've like got your desk set up kind of how you want it, and you're like, you know, it'd be good, just a little like sort of little raised bit for the monitor or whatever, and then you're like having a look on like IKEA and Amazon for this like very specific shape and size, and you're like, God damn it, if I was a guy that could like work a drill, I could just make exactly what I wanted when I wanted it.
People like my friend Choi, who's an amazing builder, and he's an amazing photographer and videographer. He can just build shit. And like my other friend Piotr Stopniak, who's an amazing animator and 3D designer, like he can fucking build shelves. Just having another skill up my sleeve. And it's like,
building's the big one too, I think, at a certain point in your life.
But I kind of I saw this targeted Instagram ad last week, and I just filled out this inquiry form about going and doing a teaching degree.
Oh yeah.
And I get a call the next day from this guy at Swinburne, and he's running me through all this stuff, and I'm like, fuck, 4 years. I'll be 50 by the time I finish this. And so I was like, oh, have I left this too late? And then I talked to another friend that night, and his wife's a teacher, and she is in the middle of breaking in someone who just finished their degree, and they're 52. And I was like, oh shit. And teaching is one of those things that you're never going to run out of a need for teachers. And it's the same
you
thing
can
with,
work everywhere.
Builders or carpenters, there's always going to be a need for the people with that skill set. And it's like, you know, I'd love to, you know, I don't know if I could go and do my chippy apprenticeship at 46, you know.
Right.
Teaching's a little bit more in my lane right now, and I think maybe that's like a building thing as well, right?
Because you've done a bit of stuff with kids, right? You've done like workshops where you've done like where have you gone and done that kind of stuff?
Well, you know, I've got to do loads here in Australia. I'm doing 10 days in January at Marrickville Metro with my good friends at Kingswood Creative. So we're going to be doing 10 days of skateboard workshops there.
Cool.
So I've been doing those art workshops for like far out 12, 13 years now.
Yep.
So
you're kind of you're in the zone a little bit. I mean, my thing is like, I just would be so scared of like, kids see through bullshit. Kids will speak their mind. And the idea of being like, even just like a 12-year-old getting on the train, I get scared of.
Oh, I saw this girl walking to school this morning. I was like, "Where are your parents?" And she was on her phone, and she nearly walked into someone. I was like, "Get off your phone!" But
oh man, my friend's partner is a teacher, and she's just like, "Man, it's just." I truly feel insane where you're just hearing all this shit every day about the Rizzler and Skibbity toilet, and she's like, I feel like I'm having a mental breakdown every day. I
found out what Skibbity toilet means.
I feel like an alien.
Yeah, you know, it wasn't what I was expecting. No, but like I think it's one of those things as well. It's like being practical about, you know, where your future lies, right?
Yeah.
And you know, again, being really conscious that we have had a lot of success in a really hard, tough market to have a career in, you know.
Yeah.
But where do you go? It's just that, you know, not that you want to talk yourself out of a career. Like I'd love to just keep doing what we're doing for the rest of my life. And there's probably a chance that does happen. But at the same time too, like I love teaching.
Yeah.
And it it wouldn't be that crazy to just make that switch and still be able to do what it is that we do.
But you know what's crazy? Like, like you saying before, like, 4 years, by that point I'd be 50. And it's funny, anytime you think about doing something like that, you're like, oh my God, that's such a long time. But then you think about like other points in your life where you've thought about that and how long ago that seems and how like, oh, if I had have done that then, I would have had that degree for like 8 years now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That feels like
totally.
It feels like a blip. Like that time went by and in like nothing.
It's just like this year. This year's been one of the, on paper, the worst years for us, but it's just gone so quickly.
Yeah.
You know? It feels like it was February. Now it's like fucking Christmas tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite jokes. You know, what's the best thing about being a meth head? Only 2 sleeps till Christmas. You know, like that's.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to. Yeah, building stuff is like, it's the big one for me as well. Like not that I don't really subscribe too much to any kind of like conventional gender roles or whatever, but Lauren is like super practical. Like, you know, we'll find a table in hard rubbish that's like needs a new leg and needs a sanding and a polish, and she's like
there on the
she's
lathe.
getting the sander out, she's doing it all, and it's like, again, I like to think I'm progressive and I don't care about that stuff, but then I'll see her outside like just really getting into it, and I'm like, this is so humiliating.
You want a hand? No, babe, I'm fine. You just go get yourself another beer. Yeah.
You want some cookies and lemonade?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Choc chip again. Get back in the kitchen.
This friend of mine this girl I went to high school with, we're not like close, but she's married with 2 kids and a third on the way. And for some weird reason, something that I always think about with her is that I reckon maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, I saw her post a Facebook status that was something like, you know what I think is disgusting is when men want to clean and cook. Yuck, what are you doing in the kitchen? I can see your pussy. It's just like this, this like super old school like belief, and it's so funny to see that from like a woman's perspective who's like, no, I want to live in the 1950s. It sounds awesome, and so, but it is so like, you know, she was like a lot younger and single when she posted that, and it is so funny now seeing her with like a young family and a partner where I'm like, I wonder if you still feel the same way.
Oh, but I love cooking and I do all of that, and my place is in the kitchen.
I feel the same way.
Chain me to that stove.
I'm more and more like, I like cooking, and I'm finding myself more and more just like, volunteer to do it as much as I can, because I'm like, let's be realistic. I'm doing barely anything else around the house. I'll walk the dog every day, and I'll have a
I mean, Lauren's
beautiful
built the table we're eating at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good on
I'll
you,
have
babe.
a beautiful fresh ottolenghi recipe on the table ready to go at 7 p.m.
You've been cooking all day, babe. You must be exhausted.
My parents, like my dad's retired, but my mum is a tutor. My mum was a teacher, and then I don't really know how she sort of got back into it, but tutors now and has like a lot of students. So she's like kind of busier than she's ever been. Mm-hmm. And because dad has all this extra time now, so it's kind of flipped. So he's doing all the like house cleaning, and he's like cooking every night now.
Is he a golfer?
No.
Oh, bummer.
No, he's building an old car from scratch.
Oh, shit.
That he's been working on for like 40 years at this point.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. He's made the original car.
Yeah. He's building this like super old Rolls Royce that I'll say to him like, can you drive it? And he's like, yeah, you can drive it. I mean, it doesn't have a floor, but you can drive it.
In theory. It's more of a Flintstones thing. Yeah.
Totally. And it's like 2 questions. It's like, do you call it the floor? I guess you do, of the car. But
I'm sure there's a technical term out there. Hey, write into the pod and let us know if there's a technical term for the floor of a car.
Technical term for the bottom of a car.
Yeah.
The ground of the car. But so he's now, he's doing the cooking, and Mum said to me once, she said to me and Lauren.
He's going to kill me. He's trying to poison me.
She was like, I've had to tell him, you've got to get the dinner on the go earlier, because I get in here at 6 p.m. and I expect dinner to be ready to go when I walk in the door, because what's happening at the moment is you're not starting it until 6:37, and then sometimes we're not eating until 8 p.m. And at our age, that's just too late. Yeah. It's just too late to be having dinner.
Mummy can't be digesting it at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. It's just not going to work. She said that to me and Lauren, and that I mean, I found it very funny and good for you, Mum, but it kind of ruined my life because now it's like if it gets to 7:30 and this like insanely involved recipe that I'm like maybe like a tenth of the way through isn't coalescing yet, I get Lauren on the couch being like, we are simply too old to be starting our dinner at 8:30 at night.
Time for Chinese.
Yeah, we've really been flipped. Get out of the kitchen. I can see your pussy from in there.
That's it. Tommy, you're still plucking the duck. Come on. Just...
I got to ask this friend of mine about that. Just message her out of the blue, be like, do you remember posting this 15 years ago? And like, has your kind of view on that changed at all over time? Just quickly, like one of your things that you singled out was that you like being able to talk to people is the skill. Like the things that you do are your abilities, but then to get them to turn into things.
I think it's like it's building. You think, or you might have a talent in one thing, but you need multiple things if you want to kind of have a career in something.
Right.
And I find being able to talk to people and engage with people being the foundation of everything else. Just even being able to write a nice, succinct email. Mm-hmm. But like coming from, well, I kind of mentioned this before, but like before art became the job, hospitality was the job.
Sure.
So that was a good, 10 years of making coffee or waiting tables and just talking to people.
Right.
There's also meeting people as well. And people who've heard me talk in the past, I'll probably sound like a broken record, but it means and it makes such a difference to your career when you're able to be yourself and you're able to be forward and you're able to kind of be funny or warm and talk to people and convey your ideas.
Yeah.
Being able to talk through what something is about. I love being able to kind of sit down and do a Zoom or a phone call with a client and go for a deep dive and being able to kind of talk through what it is, have a few jokes, get to know people.
Yeah.
And that's what builds those longer term relationships, whether it's work or just the amount of friends that I've made, like you and I, we started off as a work thing and we've been friends for like 12, 13 years now.
Started bullshitting over some beers. Yeah.
Totally.
My fear is I can talk in a technical sense. The idea of filling up time is no stress to me, but over time I'm starting to my fear is more like, does what I'm saying have any merit or value or substance whatsoever? You know what I mean? I really do feel like I'm quantity over quality.
Well, I kind of got into this thing last night where I was trying to say goodbye to all these people at this Christmas party, and then I just caught myself just talking shit. So apologies, Shal. And then I had to get back home to help Biddy out, and I was like, oh, what am I even saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything worthwhile.
Yep.
So I got to dip.
Yep.
Smoke bomb, I'm gone.
My God, if I had that kind of filter, I'd be leaving most parties at about 8:15, I reckon.
Well, I think the other thing too, I need to stop. Maybe I'm being a little bit too over the top friendly sometimes with how much, but I like to tell people if something's good and positive, I like to highlight that because it's just so easy to just get caught up in being cynical, and that's the one thing I definitely have been catching myself in is just being too negative. And to be honest, I think I'd sort of have the right, after the last few years to sort of be on a bit of a downer, but it's like being able to kind of appreciate where you're at, where the people that you're with and all the opportunities. It's like, that's just, So thank you to everyone who's given us any opportunity and anyone who's given us work. And thank you, Tommy, for having me today.
Thank you, Sonny. And hey, if you've got young kids, maybe in 10 years' time, they'll be doing first day of Sonny's lesson plan, the importance of flossing.
That's
and
it.
You got to respect the floss.
Yep. Look under your chairs. Everyone gets dental floss.
And there you go, the great man, Sonny Day. I hope you enjoyed that chat. I hope if you weren't familiar with Sonny and his work, maybe you go look him up now. You can go to sonnyandbiddy.com, which is the website for We Buy Your Kids, his design company with his wife Biddy. They've got a shop on there where you can buy a lot of their prints that I was mentioning earlier. The poster they did for Jack White recently is a personal favourite of mine. Their artwork is great. So, go have a little look around. Next time he's doing an exhibition, go check it out and tell him that this podcast sent you. It was great to have him on. I've sat on this episode episode for kind of a stupid amount of time. I have to be completely honest. I did this at the end of last year. So it's taken me a while to put this out. And so apologies to Sonny for that. If maybe you were sitting there thinking that I had just binned this episode. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed the wisdom of Sunny Day and the recollections of art school feedback from me and my reckless youth stealing mirrors off trams. As I said up the top of the episode, get onto patreon.com/howtodoeverything. That is where you can interact with the show as well. There's always a discussion thread for every episode. Love to hear what you guys are thinking of the show and any particular things that this episode alerted you to, reminded you of in your own life. You can also find me on Instagram at howtodoeverythingpodcast. Always little clips going up there. If you want to share them around, it really does help the show get some traction. Leave a review on your podcast player of choice. All of this stuff is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for joining us, and I will see you next time for more How to Do Everything.